Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Shotsuki monthly memorial and adult Dharma service. We had originally planned for this service to be hybrid with both in-person and online, but unfortunately we had to cancel the in-person portion. However, we will continue with this online service, and I'd like to begin by reading the names of those who've passed away in the month of July. Etsuko Aikawa, Jun Ted Ajari, Umeno Ajari, Mrs. Akiyoshi, Takamichi Akiyoshi, Carlton Doi, Chieko Endo, Taeko Endo, Takao Fuji, Yasuko Fujimori, Reverend Hogen Fujimoto, Hideo Fukuya, Reverend Hakushi Futaba, Susan Hamamoto, Chogoro Harada, Take Harada, Kiyo Harano, Yoshinori Hatakeyama, Konoe Hirota, Yoshito Hiyama, Brian Honda, A. Hori, Reverend Satoru Hori, Mrs. Kishiko Hoshide, Kando Ikeda, Minai Ikeda, Tsukiko Ikeda, Chuichi Inouchi, Kensuke Inoue, Sadaichiro Isono, Katsumi Kaida, Yasuko Kameyama, Aki Kanada, Jin Kanesaki, Takeno Kanesaki, Fusayo Kaneshige, Sakai Rose Kaneshige, Toshio Kano, Arthur Kanzaki, Kazuo Kato, Mitsue Kato, Mieko Kawabata, Glenn Kawamoto, Tamae Kawata, Masako Kayatani, Kiyoshi Kimura, Hakuichi Kinoshita, Kimiko Kobori, Shina Kobori, Kent Masao Koizumi, Rose Kurotori, Hina Maeda, Roger Matoi, Shigeru Matsuda, Chikara Matsui, Chosaburo Matsui, Minoru Matsumoto, Hisaburo Matsutani, Isamu Matsutani, Yachio Matsutani, Matsuko Minamidani, Arthur Misaki, Kieko Mitsuda, Fred Miyamoto, Yaeno Mizuki, Haruko Mizushina, Takaichi Motomura, Itsu Mukuno, Baby Muranishi, Mitsuko Nagafuji, Ima Nagai, Maki Najima, Mokichi Nakagawa, Grace Nakagiri, Wakichi Nakai, Tadashi Nakamura, Frank Nakao, Tsunetaro Nakaya, Yoshi Natsuhara, Tora Negi, Torao Neishi, Leroy Nita, Hiroshi Noda, Bob Shoichi Nomura, Morris Nomura, Hisakusu Ogawa, Misao Ohara, Hisai Okemoto, Konoe Ota, Takashi Otsuka, Kenji Makana Rasi, Bill Sakakura, Kimiko Sasaki, Fusa Sato, Genjiro Sato, Masao Sato, Masako Shibata, Mineko Shigematsu, Juhei Takata, Ken Takayama, Momoko Takesaka, Harunori Tamichi, Fuji Tamori, Shigeoki Tanaka, Chiyogi Tanisawa, Hisayoshi Tanisawa, Yone Tarada, Billy Takako Watahara, Hisao Ehara, Kakutaro Yamabe, Ichiro Yamamoto, Katsuyo Yamamoto, Miharu Yamamoto, Misao Yamamoto, Shichiroemon Yamamoto, Toyo Yamamoto, Miyuki Yamasaki, Shin Yasuda, Michie Yokomizo, Mitsuo Yokomizo, Motoemon Yokomizo, Giichi Yoshioka, Evelyn Yoshisato, George Yoshisato. We will now have Sutra chanting, and today we will chant Sanbutsuge, and you can chant along. The words will be on the screen, or you can think about your loved ones that are being honored during the chanting. Namandam, 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 namandam. Kogen gigi, ijin mugok, nyoze emyo, muyo tosha, Nichigatmani Shuko Enyo 開始のペイ有脈樹木如来予言朝鮮無人小学大音こぬ実法開門精進三昧知恵意徳無量主生慶人体前年小仏北海愚人人の空語外体無明欲ぬ世尊読む人の死死人徳無量空君古代知恵人妙光明一層神道大仙願が差仏在所法可動生じ未不下脱不正上位解任精進如是三昧知恵以上五世特部不行志願一切空空一切大安決しうぶ百千億万無量大小春行五者供養一切死と勝仏不如愚道賢勝不客貧如五者勝仏世界不不可け無種sep道光明師匠変師諸国如是精進異人難女両が差仏国土第一五種奇妙道場超絶国如内音任務闘争ガト愛民道達二切実法内省信念症状意図が国経楽安の古仏神妙是が心象北願の非力少々欲実法世尊知恵無下上女子孫知が信行権量心死食毒中行精進臨終不敬ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダ Namandamun Ganni Shikudoku Byodo Seisai Dohotun Bodaishin Ojo Namandam, 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 namandam. Okay, thank you. I'd like to deliver the Dharma message. As I mentioned at the beginning, this service was originally planned to be kind of our new normal of a hybrid service with both people here in the Hondo in person and also those of you who are online. But unfortunately, we had potential exposure to COVID, myself included, and so we felt it was best to cancel the in-person part. And so it was a hard decision to make, but it just really felt like the best one for the safety of our members. And so I apologize, but we'll make the best of it. I've actually said before, I think, that I've had a lot of experience with hybrid kind of stuff because I've been teaching at IBS for, I don't know, over 10 years, coming on 15 years maybe. And for much of that, I've had online students in addition to teaching in class at the Jodo Shinshu Center in Berkeley. So it wasn't easy having both people in person and people online. And I actually kind of didn't like having to do it because the people online were on my computer, right? And so the people in the room could have discussion. It was really hard to have the people online be able to participate in that. I'd be like turning around my laptop and it just really didn't work that well. And I was kind of surprised when the pandemic started and we switched to 100% online. All of a sudden it was like, oh, wow, everyone now, we're all kind of on equal footing. And I felt much more comfortable with it being only online. But I think hybrid is best, right? That if we have better technology now at IBS and the JSC, so I hear, so that in the future, if I have to do hybrid kind of classes, that it'll be a little easier than it was before. We've been doing the hybrid here, and I think it's going okay, right? You know, some people will say it's just not the same having it online, and you know, you can't smell the incense. The screen is tiny if you're looking on your iPhone. You know, you can't see your friends. I get it. And those people have been coming to temple. But it's also great for people who can't come to temple because you live far away or for whatever reason, right? And so I think that both have their pros and cons, and by doing it in a hybrid way, we're able to kind of get the best of both worlds. And each one might not be as good as if it was only this or only that, but it reaches out to so many more people that it just really seems like the way to go. And so this hybrid idea is kind of neat. And so I was thinking, is that kind of like the middle way? Right? The middle way being one of my, I often say, one of my favorite Buddhist teachings. The middle way between extremes. We find it in Shakyamuni's story of him being a prince and being surrounded with only pleasure as a young person, and then rejecting all that and going the total opposite, right? And rejecting, engaging in difficult practices, denying the body and even the himself and his own needs, right? And realizing, wow, the pleasure only was an extreme, but what I'm doing now is an extreme too. And so he awakens to the middle way, and that's a big part of his awakening, his becoming Buddha, and then going off to teach. He comes up again with Nagarjuna, one of the 7 masters of Jodo Shinshu, and Shinran in Shoshinge says, Nagarjuna is the one who he rends the mistaken views of existence and non-existence. U, mu, ken. Ken is view. U is to exist. Mu is to not exist. But they're both extremes. To think, I'm me, I exist, I'm important, and I'm gonna, there's some part of me that's gonna last forever, and my eternal soul or something. Buddhism says, right? That we can't find some eternal existing thing that perseveres through it all. So you might think, well, so is there nothing? No thing? Is there nothing? Right? No, that's an extreme too. We exist, but only in the context of other things. Or things exist, but only in the context of other things. With no self-existence of their very own. So that kind of middle way between existence and non-existence. There's another one that, I don't know if it's contextualized like this, but Shinran Shonin saying of himself, I'm neither monk nor layperson. Hiso hizoku. Hi is another negative, kind of like mu. So means monk. Zoku means like layperson, person of the world. And he says of himself, he was exiled and defrocked. And although he was reinstated as a monk, he says of himself, he got married. He didn't uphold the monastic precepts anymore. And so he's like, I'm not a monk, but I'm not a layperson either. And it's interesting. That's kind of like Jodo Shinshu ministry is kind of like that, right? I got ordained. We're hoping to have another Tokudo within the next year or two, so that we can have people get ordained and change their status, right, and become ministers. Although they're called monks in Japanese, soryo. But I have hair. I don't keep any monastic precepts. Right? And so I'm not a monk, but when I hear people say, oh yeah, Jodo Shinshu ministers, they're not monks, they're lay people. That doesn't seem right either. Right? And so it's this kind of liminal state between. It's kind of a hybrid of both. The really interesting thing is it only for ministers or all Jodo Shinshu followers, neither monk nor lay person? I'm not sure the answer to that one, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Because I think a lot of times we think, oh, the minister, they're up here, they're better than me, or they, whatever. Nope, we're all equal, fellow travelers, ondobo, ondogyo, right? And so if we're all equal, maybe we're all neither monk nor lay person. Living our life, saying the Nembutsu, reflecting on our lives, embraced by the wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. I've been debating in my mind how much to go into current events. I think that it's really, really strange times out there, difficult times, horrible times in many ways, continues to be. And I'll say this, personally, my values are that we should live our lives guided by the principles of wisdom and compassion. Wisdom means to see things as they are. To try, at least, to see things as they are. The ideal would be, I'm enlightened, I see things totally as they are, right? I see things from all perspectives, or I see things in their emptiness and in their form. That would be the enlightened viewpoint, maybe. I'm not going to get there in my life during this lifetime. And yet, I don't want to just accept ignorance and falsity, right? That I want to get as close to the truth as I can, and to try and be truthful, right? To try and live a life of integrity. Right? I think that's one of the biggest problems with social media. Is in one way, it's just these representations that we mistake for real. But then also, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Right? And so being aware of that and trying to see through that, I think is one way I can live my life as a Buddhist in this current climate. Compassion, kindness. We can't, I'm willing to accept other people's viewpoints, but if it's rooted in racism, if it's rooted in sexism, if it's rooted in homophobia, if it's related in hatred and anger and judgment, then I'm going to have some difficulty with it. right? And my feeling is I don't think we all have to believe the same thing, but to me, that's the beauty of America, right? That we can have different viewpoints. But I really don't like this idea of one group being held up above others, whether it's a certain race or men or whatever, or a certain religion, right? Being held up above others. That to me is not what America's about, right? And I should be able to encounter people different than me, right? And still be motivated by compassion and kindness. Even if I don't like them, even if I strongly disagree with them, right? So it's really hard. That's where, when really getting there, right, with this wisdom and compassion, can I really do it? Can I really manifest true wisdom and compassion? Maybe not, maybe, right? But I can at least be motivated by those things, right? And so when I look at the news and I see all of these killings, whether they're premeditated or random, right? That's not right. I can't go along with that. When I see one group trying to bully everyone else, I can't go along with that. Actually, bullying is one of the things I've been thinking about a lot, but that's going to have to be another talk. So, in some ways I'm very disappointed and upset with what's going on, but maybe as a Buddhist I have a kind of optimism, right? Things get difficult all the time. Life is difficult. Right? And yet, encountering Buddhism gives me direction. Being Buddhist gives me ideals to strive for. And, in the midst of all this difficulty, whether it's personal difficulty of your own or societal difficulty of my community or my country or the entire world, right? I think we can band together with a whole bunch of people that feel similar to us, even if they're not our religion. That hatred is wrong, racism is wrong, right? Random or premeditated killing is wrong. I wish it was that simple, right? But thinking too about Shotsuki and reading these names, so many of these people led difficult lives under difficult circumstances, and they're calling out to us now to not give up. I think they're calling out to us as part of the wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha to have these ideals, to understand these ideals of wisdom and compassion, and to try and put them into practice in our daily lives. So I want to thank you very much for joining us. Why don't we conclude the Dharma message with Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Okay, just a few announcements. The Bushin newsletter got a little bit delayed because of our closure of the temple, but it will be going out this next week. And so look for it either online or in your mailbox. If you're watching this, you're probably going to get it online. We have some announcements there about our Obon festival. It's not going to be a gigantic public one like we used to do. We're not going to close the street, but we are going to do something. So please keep an eye out for that, whether it comes in the Bushin or in a separate kind of mailing. Also, this will be our last service until our Obon and Hatsubon services, which will be on that first Sunday in August. And so want you to take care and, just keep an eye out for these announcements and everything. And we hope to see you in some form in August. And, looking forward to, we'll see what happens for September. But for now, I'd like to conclude the service. It'll be followed by the virtual incense offering, which we haven't done in a while. So why don't we conclude our service with Gassho, reciting the name of the Buddha, expressing our gratitude and appreciation to the wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha, who embraces us as we are. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Namanda.